for this week, obviously, as you said, BOK is most likely to raise rate, and the market is already bracing for that. Next year is a bit more complicated because you have reopening coming, and then the growth is moderating. And as far as we see, inflation won't be accelerating, as you have seen in the case of many developed economies or some of the Latin American or EMEA economies. So as the governor said repeatedly, and also most MPC members agreed in latest minutes, they would like to have a more gradual normalization rather than rapid normalization, whatever that means, yes.
Right. So for 2022, what is your baseline scenario in terms of interest rate hikes by the BOK? Are we looking at 2 or fewer?
We expect 2 hikes next year, more or less in line with what our U.S. economists are thinking about the pace of normalization. The reason why we expect a gradual normalization next year is because this pandemic recession is very different from previous the typical cyclical recessions driven by oversupply, over-leveraging, or overcapacity. So the recovery was very rapid, but going forward, we don't expect sustained inflation pressure, as you have seen in many cases, most of the cyclical upturns, in a way to push central banks, including Bank of Korea, to rapidly raise rate in a way to put the limit on the upside of inflation pressure.
Right. And do you believe that the Bank of Korea has got a handle on the overheating housing market?
I think they did as much as they could, but as Governor mentioned many times, controlling or stabilizing housing market is not really a mandate of central banks. And a lot of, the economists and the central bankers, policymakers have different view whether central banks should be getting into this business of asset price stabilization, including housing market. But given the circumstances, I think the Bank of Korea was the first central bank in Asia to raise rate, given the accumulating financial imbalances in housing market. And I think the timing was appropriate. And we continue to expect that Bank of Korea will provide a support for stabilizing housing market, but without necessarily taking the housing price as their policy target.